what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, that there's something wrong with that or there's something wrong with them.
Spending is a tax. As soon as the government spends money, eventually it's a tax. Sometimes we put a direct tax on the people, sometimes we borrow the money, and sometimes we print the money.
Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
The Patrick Riggins Show. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome to my favorite time of the year. Warm. Also known as summer. To celebrate the start of summer, I thought we'd start the show off with some summertime music. Little Will Smith. You are listening to the most logical, reasoned, and consistent show on the radio or television, bar none. I'd put this show up against any show. Local, regionally, national, or even international. This show will always be for freedom and liberty of the individual. No exceptions. No, well, in this case, you can't have freedom. Nothing like that is allowed here, which is why this show is growing so rapidly and also why there are so many hosts out there starting to co-opt some of the principles preached on this show. Not all of them, because most show hosts and even most politicians don't agree with all libertarian principles. Only the ones they think they can use to resonate with their listeners or voters. So instead of trying to spread the ideas of true freedom and liberty, they try to mix it up into this putrid soup of conservatism and libertarianism, the result of which isn't good for either idea. So what you have now is confusion, and that is what this show is here to clear up. I separate the wheat from the chaff, the right from the wrong, the ideas of governmental control from true freedom and liberty. Oh, and before I forget, let me mention that all of this is coming to you on the growing Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and locally here on WOKI News Talk 98.7 in Knoxville, Tennessee. You know, thinking about it, starting off here real quick, I've had people tell me, Patrick, your show is too serious. I like this or that show a little better because they aren't always talking about all these problems. They're talking about other things in the news not so seriously or not so serious. And what I tell these people is maybe it's better you not listen to my show then. Now, they can tell others about it, but they don't necessarily need to be listening because they aren't going to do anything about the problems I'm talking about anyway. They aren't interested. So, yeah, go ahead and listen to that talk show that says, hey, ain't it funny how dogs walk at night? Call in and talk to us about it. I cringe when I hear shows like that to all those people who have that type of attitude. Look, you need to have fun in life. I try to have fun in everything I do. I have more fun sitting right here behind this microphone than I have just about anywhere else. But whether you want to think about it or not, this country is headed towards trouble. It's simple math. We are far outspending the money we can pay back. Do you realize our national debt is up to $17 trillion? $17 trillion with a T. Do you understand just how much money that is? But Patrick, I don't want to think about it. Well, do you want to think about if the doctor tells you you have cancer? Oh, who am I kidding? You probably would just ignore that diagnosis too if you got it. That's what we have here in this country. Cancer. It's called government. It's eating away at the very foundation on which we sit. Whether you want to think about it or not, it's still there. It reminds me of people who are on like restricted diets for diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever. They'll tell themselves, I'll just eat one cupcake. My doctor will never know. And you're right. He's probably might not ever know. But your body knows. You can't fool it. It'd be like cutting off your finger and saying, I'm not going to tell my doctor about that I did that. He'll never know if I don't show him. Hey, stupid, your finger's still gone, whether your doctor knows it or not. You're still screwing up your body by eating the wrong things. The stuff your doctor tells you not to eat. It's still hurting you whether you want to admit it or not. In that exact same way, our government, or our country, and our government too, it's in bad shape whether you want to admit it or not. Doesn't change the fact that our debt is still $17 trillion. But you're right. You're right. Sit around and let someone else worry about it. After all, the government will bail you out, right? I'm sure when the government runs out of money, it'll be more than happy to give you some. Just ask the people in Europe how that works. You think this government really gives a hoot about you, the little guy or gal? You know, when the crap hits the fan, they're going to look out for people who give them money. That's who's important. And that's Wall Street, the financiers who can put together loans for countries, can bail out currencies. That's who gets taken care of. Oh, sure, they'll throw you a bone on your mortgage. Yeah, the government will force those greedy lenders to refinance you or make them stretch out your payments. But you're still having to make them, and the money is going right back to where the government needs it, the bankers who are contributing to their campaigns. You know, when our dollar collapses, where will that leave you? Well, you'll be holding these worthless dollars. Those with wealth will have a large portion of their money in gold and overseas if necessary. In reality, the government is never going to screw over the people who can put money in campaign coffers. I mean, why would they? Why would you pass laws to hurt the people who are giving you money? How long do you think they would continue doing that if you did? Are you beginning to get the picture yet? Are you starting to understand why the government doesn't want you knowing everything it is doing, but why it wants to know everything you're doing? That's really supposed to be the other way around. We're supposed to have, you know, as citizens, we're supposed to have all the privacy and freedom while the government is constrained and has to tell us everything it is doing. No secret legislation, no NSA spying, no secret FISA courts and warrants. Nothing like that at all should be occurring, and yet it is. Oh, wait, but you don't want to hear about that again. You don't have to deal with the fact that you might be working for money you might not have in 10 years because inflation has eaten it all away. That's called printing money, for those of you who don't quite understand that. You see, if you have something, and let's say it's a product or something, and it's rare, then that usually makes it valuable. But the more of it that's around, then it's less rare and consequently less valuable. Let's say you're making bicycles, and you're the only one that makes bicycles in your whole city. Well, consequently, you pretty much have a monopoly on bicycles, so you can charge pretty much whatever you want. But let's say more and more people get into this business and start making bicycles. Well, now, your bicycles that you used to could get a lot of money for aren't as worth as much now because there's more of them around. Why am I going to pay you $500 for a bicycle when I can get the same bicycle for $250? Having more of these things around, and of course I'm horribly simplifying this, but more of these you have around, the less valuable each one is. And that's what's happening with your dollar. The more dollars that we print, the more there is around, and so the less yours are worth, especially when you don't have the dollar really based on anything other than the fact that, hey, we say it's worth $1. If we say it's worth $1, then, hey, that's what it is, right? So instead of instead of sitting here trying to figure out where all of this is going, the best thing to do is let's just start limiting government. Let's start trying to cut government back. Whether we want to face it or not, we just have too much of it. Look at the whole spying thing. Look at all of this stuff that's going on, all of this arrogance and just total outright disrespect for the citizens of this country by our government. And you'll see that we have just too much government, and it's really screwing our country over. And if whether you want to admit it or not, whether you want to do something about it or not, it's still there. So it's up to us to do something about it. Anyway, this show, we're coming up on the first break here on the Patrick Riggins Show. When we come back, we have just a packed show. I've got stacks and stacks of stuff that there's no way I'm probably getting to. So we're going to try, though, and we'll start off with who else but the poster child of big government, fighting big government, Mr. Edward Snowden. We'll hit his case when we come back, and even more, all on the Patrick Riggins Show. Join us. Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Getting my clock synchronized here. Yeah, if it sounded like I lost my train of thought in that last segment, it's because I did. When I'm sitting here looking at a one-timer and it's about 7 minutes behind the other clocks in the studio, and I'm watching the timer, of course, to make sure I work out of these segments correctly, or ready to go out of the segments, and you look down and it's saying you got 5 minutes, and you look up and the station clock says, no, you got about 10 seconds. So, anyway, welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and News Talk 98.7 WOKI. This week, in between the distractions being attempted by the government and their buddies in the media, by the way, that's what all this hype about gay marriage and immigration is. It's a distraction from the bigger problem of the government spying on you. You see, gay marriage and immigration, neither of those two issues is as dangerous as the government spying scandal. That's why those things are being pushed to the front of the headlines, the front page of the newspapers. And all this spying, all this NSA, all this government violating your constitutional rights, all of that's being pushed to the back in order to make you forget all about what is really happening in this country. Now, I talked about this just last week, how the government is dangling some shiny keys in front of your face, saying, hey, look at these issues. Hey, it's immigration. Those people are stealing your jobs and sucking up your health care and welfare money. And if that doesn't get your mind off the NSA, then, hey, look, gay marriage is taking over the country. You Christians, and that's a big part of this country. Look, we're going to legalize it. You better put your energy into fighting that instead of this little insignificant problem of the government looking at every single piece of email and listening to every single phone call you make. No, don't bother with that. You better worry about that immigration and gay marriage. Of course, I like just asking the question, do you enjoy being a puppet? Do you enjoy having the government pulling your strings and making you dance just like they want you to? Aren't you about ready to cut those strings and start thinking and acting for yourself? Well, if so, welcome to the Patrick Riggins Show. Welcome to the one place where you're going to find enlightenment and a fulfillment that you aren't going to find anywhere else in media today. But getting back to my point on the spying, though, do you realize what is happening today? What is happening in our country? The United States of America. Our own government is spying on us. Spying on us, the American citizens. Does that not disturb you at all? But Patrick, they're doing it for my safety. No, they're not. They're doing it for their safety. The safety of the government. They could care less about your safety. When these apologists for this spying, these people in government and media who are making excuses for what is going on, when these people are out there accusing Edward Snowden of being a traitor, what they're telling you is to give up your freedom, give up your liberty. By the way, if they keep saying Edward Snowden's a traitor enough times, they're hoping that charge will stick in your mind. But not here. Edward Snowden here on this show is a hero. He's a hero. He's got the courage to come out and spill the beans on what this government has been doing. Do you even understand what he has done? He could still be working his nice little job in Hawaii for an NSA contractor, enjoying his life with his girlfriend and getting paid pretty well. Do you understand what this man has given up? He's passing secrets to our enemies, though, Patrick. That's why he's a traitor. Really? Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't most spies give their secrets secretly? don't they do their spying and we don't find out about it for years? We always hear about these people after they've done all their work. They don't release documents to the media. They don't become worldwide celebrities. That kind of puts a crimp on their spying activities, wouldn't you say? Edward Snowden was living a nice life. If he was a true spy, he could have passed secrets and probably made a really good living at it. But now he's given up everything he had. For what? To run around the world trying to find some place to live? Trying to keep from being abducted by the United States and possibly even killed? Look at what this guy gave up. If that doesn't tell you how committed he is to making you aware of what our government has been up to, and yet you don't have the time to worry about it. You have to watch television. Yeah, catch up on your email and Facebook. Everything this man, this hero, Edward Snowden, did everything he give up just so you would know what is going on. Is all that going to be for naught? Did he willingly destroy his life for you to just ignore the problem? Did he throw away everything he had worked for just so you could say, oh well, government spying on me. What do you know? I suspected as much. Better get back to uploading those vacation photos to Facebook. Got to give those bureaucrats in the NSA something to look at, I think the problem is most people have not considered what Mr. Snowden has given up and what he is currently going through. Also, you can know that your government has what they've been doing, how the government has been unconstitutionally spying on you. Put yourself in his place. Would you do it? Would you single-handedly take on the entire United States government, arguably the most powerful organization in the whole world? Would you give up everything you have, everything, and go on the run trying to elude our government? Do you get it now? The most powerful nation in the world is pressuring other countries to turn in Edward Snowden. Our government probably has kill teams out trying to take him out. I'm sure the drones are flying trying to target him. If our government is charging him with treason, you can bet they're looking to kill him if given the chance. But he's doing all of this for you. He certainly isn't doing it for himself. What's he getting out of this? He loses everything he worked for. Probably his girlfriend, too. He can't visit his family. He can't even call his family. He doesn't really have anybody but himself. Would you be willing to do that? Walk away from everything you have right now. Look around your house, your car. Think about all the things you have in life, all the luxuries you have. Your car, your boat, your house, everything. Would you be willing to give all that up based on the fact you disagree with what your government is doing and you want to expose it? Most people would not. I would go so far as to say 99% of the people would not do it. How do I know that? Because all this has been going on for all these years, and we've only had a handful of people. These whistleblowers come forward to try and warn us, the American citizens, try to warn us about all this. A handful. Well, I can't even think of 5. 5 or less people that I can think of right off the top of my head. 5 or less people who cared enough to walk off their nice, lucrative government job and ring the alarm bell trying to wake up this country. Now, the bad news is it doesn't appear to be working. No one really cares enough to do anything about it. Not until Mr. Snowden. Not until him did anything really get made of it. It is really the first I can think of that's been made into this worldwide sensation. And yet here we sit, comfortably in our little American civilization, not doing a dang thing about it. Nothing. You aren't writing your congressional representatives. You aren't calling them. You aren't emailing them. Nothing. Are we going to allow Edward Snowden's life to be ruined for nothing? Did he throw away his life? And that's what he did, He can't come back to this country. He can't go to any country that might send him back here. Ever. Never. Ever. Are you getting it now? Are you starting to understand what this courageous man has given up for you? As I said, it wasn't for his gain. I don't think he was sitting in his office cubicle and said, hey, gee, wouldn't it be great to lose everything I own? Everything I've tried I've worked for to try and put an end to this violation of our constitutional rights. Hey, and while I'm at it, I think I'll fly around the world trying to elude the tactical units being sent out by the United States who are trying to either catch me or put a bullet in my head. Yeah, that sounds like more fun than getting a nice paycheck, living in Hawaii with my girlfriend, and just enjoying life. You wouldn't do what Mr. Snowden has done. I will say it in case you're not thinking it. You absolutely would not do what he did. You would not give up everything to try and wake up your fellow American citizens. No way. You don't have the guts. As I've said, there are so many people in government right now seeing what is going on, seeing the same things he did, and probably even worse things happening, and don't say a word about it. They take their paychecks and justify it to themselves that they're fighting a war on terror or making our country safer or whatever. They certainly aren't being truthful with themselves, because if they were, they would quit their job and go do something else. The horror of what they're doing to their fellow American citizens would be too much for them to handle. That is, if they weren't lying to themselves about what they're doing. And a lot of people, and I mean a whole lot of people, are doing just that in government right at this moment. All right, we're up on the first break, or the second break, half-hour break of the Patrick Riggin Show already, boiling through another hour quickly. When we come back, we'll hit a couple more things. It's a big show. We've got a lot we're trying to cram in. Hopefully we'll get to it all. If we don't, you can hit our Facebook page and find it there, facebook.com/Patrick Riggin Show. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. And welcome back to the Patrick Riggin Show. A little head over heels there at the Go-Go's. I was talking to Jay earlier. I'm just saying that's not Susanna LaHouse. That's what's her other name? Susanna LaHouse was with the Bengals. We were talking. I can't. Yeah, everybody's screaming her name at the radio right now, but I can't remember the lead singer.
I can find out.
I don't know if it's that important. But anyway, I'll let my brain think about it, and it'll spit it out in the middle of this next segment. All right. Welcome back here to the Patrick Riggin Show here on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network and News Talk 98.7 WOKI. You know, even though this whole gay marriage issue is a sideshow, it's a distraction to the main problem of our government spying on us, I'm going to take a few minutes to address it simply because so many people don't know what to think, or even more vexing, or looking at it the wrong way. I've had a ton of emails asking me what I thought about all this, and I've covered it here and there on this radio show before. And if you want to hear that, you can go to our show archives at youtube.com/Patrick Riggin Show. But since it's been a little while and the listeners to this show are growing so quickly, I'll go ahead and address this whole idea of same-sex marriage and what you should think about it, not what you should feel about it, what you should think about it. I'll just talk about marriage equality, and I just want to ask, equal to what? Why should there be any marriage recognition by any government in a country that is supposed to be treating everyone equally? The government certainly treats us all the same when it comes to vacuuming up our phone calls and internet records into a database. In reality, there should be no recognition by the government of whether or not you're married. You may say, but Patrick, what about taxes? Same-sex couples can't file together. Well, that shouldn't be available in the first place. We should all be paying the same amount of tax. Besides, an income tax is an unfair tax to begin with. Why should I have to pay more tax merely because I can afford it? Because, Patrick, that's fair. If you can pay more, then you should have to. Poor people can't afford to pay the same. Well, the answer for that is make more money. If you want more stuff, make more money. It's a pretty simple equation. The hard fact of life is we aren't all the same. Some people are rich, and some people are poor. Some people are beautiful, and some people aren't. That's life. Trying to achieve some mystical equality here on earth is fruitless. Punishing people who make more money is not fair. I don't care what argument you use. Our government treating two people differently is wrong. I would bet 90% of Americans, or even I'll go so far as to say 9% of people in this world, can't tell me why that is. why a government treating one person differently than another is wrong. Well, here's the answer. It's because when you do that, someone has to decide who we are going to be treating differently. Who is getting that tax break? Who is getting that preferential treatment and job selection? Who is getting that contract based on factors other than price and quality of work? And when you do that, you open up the process to corruption. We're all human. We all have human failings. When you have someone deciding that one person is more important than another, that's when we start having problems. Now, you doing it in your personal life, that's your own business. But when it comes to government, there should not be a pecking order. All of this is our government. We are all in charge. None of us has a greater claim on this government than anyone else, or shouldn't anyway. We all know in reality that doesn't play, because there's so much to be gained in Washington and government at all levels. There is so much to be gained by bribing government representatives and bureaucrats that this corruption won't stop on its own. The government is taking in so much money and redistributing it that the temptation and the rewards are too great for people to not try and take advantage. If you want the root of the problem, that's it. Too much money in government for its own good, for our own good. The only way to rein all this in is to cut that back. Cut budgets, cut taxes, move all this money back to the people of this country. People who will make thousands and thousands of decisions every day on how to spend it, which is ultimately a much better way of doing things because it decentralizes power, and that's good. It's also the exact antithesis of what government wants, centralized power. And like absolute power, which corrupts absolutely, centralized power makes that corruption easier and more efficient. But I'm getting off track here. The government has no reason to be telling anyone anywhere who they can live with and who they can't. It's none of anyone's business but the two people actually living together. Why is the government licensing marriage anyway? You know, originally it was to keep white people from marrying anyone who wasn't white. So that's the system we want to keep perpetuating? A racially discriminatory licensing system? Well, Patrick, marriage licenses aren't used for that anymore. Fine, then do away with that system. Why are we keeping a system around that we no longer use? Because it's one more way the government gets money and controls the population. Now, is that conspiratorial? Of course not. It's a fact. There's no reason to be licensing marriages. None. Why do you need permission from the mother country to get married? Do you belong to government? Back when slavery existed in this country, the slaves had to get permission from their owners before they could get married. Now, haven't we done away with that by now? If we are free and own ourselves, why do we need permission from anyone to get married? All these news reports talk about how gay marriage is such a divisive issue. Well, why? What is dividing us in this country? It's minding other people's business. What do I care about what you're doing? If I'm not minding your business, then how can what you are doing bother me? If we were living according to the Constitution, now this would be everyday life. But Patrick, gay marriage kills our American culture. Really? You're going to tell me in all history of this country there haven't been gay people living together? Or how about, Patrick, it's against God's commandments? Oh, yeah, you're right. But that's a religion, not a government. If I mention Sharia law, everyone starts going crazy. We don't want Sharia law. Those Muslims are trying to get it implemented in England already. We don't want it here in the United States. Well, why not? You're trying to base governmental decisions on Christian law. What's the difference between one religion imposing its views on the citizens or another? Either way, you're ignoring the fact that all people are born with natural human rights. We stated as much in our Declaration of Independence, something that we're getting ready to celebrate this week. All men are created equal. They have certain unalienable rights. Among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As long as the exercise of those rights, and they aren't limited to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because you notice the wording, among these rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, meaning there's a multitude more. We're just naming these. It's like saying among the planets of the solar system are Earth and Mars. There's more, but we're just naming those for the purposes of what we're talking about right now. But back to my argument, as long as the exercise of those rights, those unlimited natural rights that we all have, as long as you aren't infringing on someone else's same natural rights, then you should be free to do whatever you want, however you want to do it. All right, man, we're up on the last segment already of the Patrick Riggin Show. When we come back, we'll might dip our toes into that swimming pool of immigration a little bit. And, heck, maybe I'll have the name of the lead singer for Go-Go's when we come back. It's floating around in my brain somewhere. Join us in a couple of minutes.
Now, my friend.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggin Show. For those of you sitting around wondering, it's Belinda Carlisle. It's the past lead singer of the Go-Go's. Somebody new. Who really cares? But back then it was Belinda Carlisle. Anyway, this last segment, I'm yielding to pressure, or not pressure, but temptation, and talking about gay marriage. And then now I'm going to talk about immigration. Right after I told you in the first segment that they're really not important and a distraction. So, again, not that I'm trying to distract from the real problems we're having, which is a government acting outside its bounds. But this immigration issue also has everyone up in arms. And I keep seeing all these signs and notes around the internet stating, no benefits for illegal immigrants. We should take care of our own first. And, as long as we have homeless and hungry veterans, no benefits for illegals. This is to everyone in America. Living off the back of another person, whether they're an American or not, is not right. This whole, I want my benefits first before any illegal gets some, is exactly what's wrong with our society. No one should be getting benefits. No one should be getting government charity. That's the system we need to fix. Everyone says we need to fix the immigration system. No, we need to fix the social welfare system. People have been coming and going to work in this country since even before it was a country. Illegal immigrants aren't our problem. Lazy, unproductive Americans are. That's the problem. You might not want to hear it, but it's the truth. Too many people in this country think they're owed something from the rest of us. And you're not. Now, I've stated it on this show over and over. Taking money at the point of a gun and giving it to another in the form of charity is wrong. Plain and simple. If I did it, it'd be called robbery. But if the government does it, it's called welfare. This is just one more example of the bastardization of what our government is doing. It is robbing people in order to give charity to someone else. But that's not illegal since we passed a law saying we could do it. Clearly unconstitutional, but it's not illegal. Now the government is secretly spying on us, American citizens, and guess what? That's not illegal either because we passed a law saying it was okay. Okay, again, clearly unconstitutional. But apparently it's not illegal. And I asked this question last week, in case you missed it. Which one wins, legality or the Constitution? It should be the Constitution. Because anything going against that document should be inherently illegal. We have all these people in an uproar over illegal immigrants because they're afraid these new people are going to be taking benefits owed to American citizens. So what? You shouldn't be receiving those benefits either. If you're out there complaining, and according to government statistics, almost 50% of Americans are receiving some type of government aid. If you're in that 50%, then you're the problem as well. For the rest of the 50% who aren't receiving benefits, well, maybe Congress debating the immigration bill will wake you up to where you'll start making some noise to stop this welfare system altogether. That's the problem, not immigration. Besides, what are we going to do? Round up 11 million people? We're going to make them register, pay taxes, learn English? Yeah, right. You're saying you're going to register people that are here now that didn't bother registering to come into this country in the first place. And what's with the registration anyway? Why do people need to register? So they can pay taxes? So the government can know where they are, what they're doing, where they're earning money and how much? The government it doesn't need to know this any more than it needs to know it about the people already here. We're already in the middle of a huge debate about whether the government is gathering too much information about the people in this country, and the answer is to gather even more? But, Patrick, you say, if they don't get on welfare, they'll take American jobs. If it's not welfare they're taking jobs. Well, isn't our country founded on freedom? And along with that freedom, shouldn't there be an open market for jobs? Shouldn't I be able to negotiate with an employer to work for them at a salary and benefits on which we both agree? And if that employer doesn't want to hire me for any reason, maybe he doesn't like white people or black people or Asians or whatever, shouldn't that employer be able to not hire anyone he wants in the same way he can hire whoever he wants? Isn't that freedom and liberty? I've also asked this question before, but here it is again. Are you ready to live in a truly free society? A lot of people aren't. In fact, most people aren't. If you are, then you're ready to understand and accept freedom. Both the beautiful, fulfilling freedom, along with the ugly and discriminatory freedom. They are two sides of the same coin. So if we're going to respect freedom and liberty of individuals to pursue happiness, then what's the problem? Are these people climbing onto the United States free money train, getting free money and food and housing, all at the expense of the United States taxpayer? Well, I have to ask you, how is this different than what we've heard right here? There you go. We have too many people wanting that supposed free government money. These are the people who you have to outvote, because I don't think they're going to be real receptive to the argument of individual responsibility. Now, I'm not saying don't try. I'm just saying I wouldn't allow myself to be disappointed if it didn't work out. If this person didn't see the light and wanted to continue the self-destructive lifestyle they're living. That's what government aid does. It destroys an individual. It robs them of the pleasure of living, of the excitement of failure and the subsequent success that inevitably follows that. That is, if you don't give up the fight. If you don't learn, then you're defeated. But real quickly, back to this immigration. If we get rid of the social welfare system in America, and one way or the other, we're going to do just that. Either it'll be voted out or we'll have a currency collapse and the money just won't be there to give away. You want a hint of it, just imagine the problems in Europe multiplied by about 10. The heavy multiplier is because all the other currencies are pegged to ours. So anyway, we're up on the last of the show here. Thank you for listening this week to the Patrick Riggin Show. You can get us on Facebook, facebook.com/Patrick Riggin Show. Also on youtube.com/Patrick Riggin Show. Thank you for listening this week, and be sure and join me again next Saturday afternoon at 4, where we'll be fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. Thank you for listening, and have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggin Show. Be there.